Hi, Uncle Thor here. I want to talk today about the Isa Rune, and comes in contact with another subject I like. I have a small collection of military knives. Naturally, you'd figure that from me. And the idea of Isa as tempering. And what really got me investigating this a little further, although I've known how tempering has been done for years, is I've been watching a show called Forged in Fire. It's on cable, and it's a competition for custom knife makers. In each episode, they'll bring in 4 new custom knife makers, and these guys compete making a blade in the forge right there. And there's 3 rounds. First round, they eliminate one guy. Second round, they eliminate another guy. And then the third round, the last 2 guys have to make an edged weapon from history, usually some kind of sword. And it's fascinating. And part of the process is when after they heat the blades to a certain point, they dip it into oil or water. And they call it quenching it. But this is the process of tempering. And this is an application of the Isa principle, because instantly when they do that, the molecules in that blade are brought to they're slowed down tremendously. I can't say brought to a halt because that would be impossible. The thing would just disintegrate. They are slowed down tremendously, and it affects the nature of the blade. Ideally, it makes the blade less brittle. At the same time, it contributes to the blade's strength so that this blade won't fall apart. And you've seen on the show when they didn't get it right, the blades have broken because they're too brittle. So this tempering process, this is what makes the change. I'm just sorry, kitties being distracting. But this is what makes the change, this tempering process, this slowing down, in a sense, this freezing or this quick chill. And I have a couple of blades here to explain a little something to you. This is a Bowie knife that I got several years ago. As you can see, it's a nice quality blade. Got a lot of nice heft to it. Little skull crusher in back. I got a good price on it because there was an imperfection in the handle, and it's cosmetic rather than anything else. Now, the back of this blade, this is called the spine. By the way, the Bowie knife is the American Scramasax. This is called the spine. This is a clip point. This is called the false edge, as it's not sharp. And as you see, right into the spine. Now, in the Middle Ages, what they would do, right on, and of course in the Viking Age as well, people usually carried a blade of 16 inches or less, the average people. And that's because they could increase the strength of the blade by building up the spine to add more strength. What happened is that the larger swords, that doesn't work because of the stresses of the longer piece of steel. Just strengthening it like that doesn't work. The blade would break. It would still be brittle. What it requires for a sword from 20 inches on up to 3 feet or more is that the blade has to be tempered, and you have to have a better carbon steel. So the process is much more careful for a weapon like that. And that allows the weapon to function without those stresses that might let it break or shatter or bend. So it's an interesting thing. By the way, that's the Bowie. Another type knife here, one that I also like, I love having this one, is the World War II era Mark I trench knife. This Mark III trench knife, issued to the U.S. Army. And it's a very simple blade. This style of blade was carried for many years in U.S. bayonets. So that's a very simple, very good piece of steel. And of course, here is a bayonet. This is a bayonet for an M16. And we take it out. And as you can see, the same shape of blade. The handle is different. The pommel, which is the butt end here, is fixed so that this can be clipped into the bayonet lug on a rifle. The crossguard, the hilt, is done so that you can fit the barrel of the rifle through here. And what's nice about this one As opposed to the trench knife, you can only do it on one edge. Here you can do it on both. There's enough of a ricasso. That's the area here between the cross guard and the sharp edge on the one side that you can wrap your finger around and use it like that for, you know, different styles of knife fighting. Of course, it's ideal for this, and this is the way it would be held, say, with the Fairbairn Sykes or with the Steyer's methods. These are all military methods of combat knife. I got some wicked knowledge there, don't I? If you go to my downloads section on our online resources, you can find some information about these things. But so much for knife craft. I do enjoy them. But again, there are other things also who are made more valuable, whose properties change through a quick freezing or a quick cooling. And it's not just that it gets cold or that it's preserved, but it alters on a molecular level to make a thing more useful. And this cooling can be used to give it properties that it normally wouldn't have. So the Isa Rune is, of course, an obstacle. We see ice in it. It brings things to a halt. But at the same token, that bringing things to a halt, that slowing down, can be very beneficial. And again, as we're talking about on the molecular level. So these runes, these principles exist at all levels of existence. They're not just a one-trick pony, you know. We find them, of course, in our level, living a day-to-day life here in this world, but also way down in a molecular level, and you'll also find them at work up in the intergalactic level, you know, of course. You just have to know how to look for them. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and you know, you can look further into examples of tempering for yourself to see this unique application of the Isa Rune principle. This is Uncle Thor. Have a good one.